welcome to Gatekeepers. Now, I'm going to take just a moment of everyone's time to address something. There's a lot of things going on in the community right now as far as the OGL drama. This is the only thing that we are going to address on this until something actually concrete and official is released by WotC. WotC is not the hobby. We are the hobby. Meeting with friends, sharing in laughs at, the sheer ridiculousness of using a trope against a BBEG, the epicness of clawing out a narrow victory from near disaster, the epic moments and memories we make around the table with good friends, be it a physical table or virtual table. That is the hobby. Not just one company, just one game. I implore you to explore the hobby more. Play new games, explore other concepts, mix and mod and blend and hack together amazing times and adventures with those you call your friends. Without further ado, I invite you to, if you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to myself and the other members that are going to be part of our stream. If you want to join the discussion, consider joining our Discord, where you may pose questions into our Discord's discussion chat or into our suggestion forum. My name is Jaide, and I welcome you. With us tonight is a guest who knows a little something about our topic. What is Exalted? Please welcome Baron G to the stream. Welcome, sir. How are you doing this evening?
Are
you ready to teach everyone what Exalted is?
To the best of my ability.
Awesome. With us are some rookies to the D10 White Wolf, or now it's Paradox International, I believe, owns White Wolf. So these two are rookies to the game system, so they might have some questions that I myself have not thought up. With us is Conall the Cigar DM and Shadow of Shadow and Sun. Welcome, everyone.
Howdy.
So, I am asking the three of you not to dive down any rabbit holes that have to do with the OGL, because again, we're not going to touch it. It's not concrete. It's not finished. We're not going to bother with it. And I'm going to also ask that chat also refrains from trying to drag us into the drama that is that nightmare. So, without any further ado or interruption, let's get into it. How are we all doing this evening? Yeah?
Great.
Surrounded by people I like.
It's a great new year. It's going to be the, well, like I said, a million times this year already. It's chance for a whole new year. Let's make the best out of it, and throw all that other crap, to the sidelines. We don't need it. This is supposed to be about fun. This is a hobby. We could be, working overtime, but no, we're playing games that used to be relegated to, for the most part, a lot younger crowd than us. And that's what we do for fun. The least we can do is have some damn fun. How's it going, Hungar? Yeah. Hey, I just saw Bo's out there. Check out his new channel. He needs all the love he can get so he can get to that 50 sub mark so that he can start doing live streaming as well, because I'm really looking forward to that.
All right. We ready? So, the first question that I have is, Baron, what is Exalted in your words?
Exalted is kind of a demigod type game system put out originally by White Wolf, and basically where you are the base class that most people do play are these Solars. They are the ones that were the lawbringers, the ones that were around during the that helped fight off the revolt of the gods, and kind of fought against the primordials, which were the first of their line, I guess is the best way to put it, that were on the world that is where they're from. They were also the defenders of creation, and they, assume more of a leadership in the material realm. So that's basically kind of give you the long and the short. The easiest way that I can explain it is, if you can think of an anime you absolutely love, you can do it in it. So you can. There's a lot of different powers or charms that you can, based on your class, take and go from there. And you can play all the exact same class and come up with significantly different play styles from those same classes.
You say classes. Conall, you've got a question.
No, you said anime. Are we talking, and I'm not going out into the weeds, don't worry. I know I have a habit of doing that. But are we talking like Bleach? Can I pull off a Bunkai? Or are we talking more classic anime like Thundercats?
I would say anywhere from DBZ to Tokyo Ghoul. Pretty much.
Wow. Okay.
Anything
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Vegeta.
Pretty much.
So
it's definitely going to be over 9,000.
Would you say this is more of a fantasy, science fiction, or a mix?
I would say that it is more of a medieval. There is a very, very medieval, more of a samurai type feel. That's why I say like an anime, and things along those lines too. And then you use there's no levels in it. Bow. We'll get into the meat and potatoes of the games. There are skills, but it is more about role playing, not role playing. So it is on what they call the storyteller system. So it is more heavily ingrained in a lot of the theater of the mind. Typically, the combat is actually pretty fast paced. Usually it ends before even the first round, typically.
So you say it's heavily role play. So when you say that, like, what exactly do you mean? Like, give us an example scenario, if you don't mind.
Well, it's definitely more about the story. So
Okay.
The fighting is not the end all be all of the story, but with a combination of your skills and there is some investigation that is involved. So it is more of a, what I would consider more of a theater of the mind type game. It's not necessarily something you need to actually break out a board and set minis on. Maybe if you have like a boss fight, something like that, just so everyone gets an idea of what's going on, especially depending on. But for instance, in a game that I actually played in, I was playing a class called the Eclipse. They're like the diplomats. Basically, if they're the overseers of agreements. So if the agreement's made and the agreement's broken, bad things happen. And the big thing with them is they will definitely curse the oath breakers. But my guy was arranged. So when they talk about, to give you an idea of how we had an army coming at us, literally like 50, 75 people coming at a group of 5. And the way that combat is broken up is your range always goes first. So your thrown weapons, your projectiles, things like that. Then your melee, and then finally your magic. So those are the 3 steps of the wheel. It's a wheel system, is what they call it. but those are the three pillars of that wheel that you do work with. And literally with the charms and everything else I had, if you think about the scene in 300 where Leonidas is like, well, we'll fight in the dark. Well,
Yeah.
my guy himself could do that. It was a mini arrow up into the sky. It comes down. It's like a barrage of arrows. Then he could also make them as what they call a charm called white arrow, which essentially makes them into ballista bolts.
I see.
So that, like I said, it's very anime-esque. You're using your
The power of demigods.
you pretty much, you're using your charms. Also, your anima is what your power is, and
Okay.
there's some other little things with the anima that do affect some things.
Okay. So, okay. Well, I guess let's get into it. What is anima? Like, what does it do? What is its effect?
It's essentially their mana. So for different charms, things along those lines, in order to use those charms, it does cost anima to use it. Once you get down to a certain point, each of the Exalted have a anima flare that comes out, of their own choosing, whether it be like a dragon or dice or whatever, depending on what their classes that they choose. They will show that they are exalted. Now, the exalted in this world are kind of not looked in the best light. So after the first age, they were the rulers of righteousness. And then, of course, as many movies have put, with great, with power, corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. That actually happened. And what would happen is with the Solar is they would be reborn and reborn and reborn. So a lot of reincarnation type things. Now, necessarily, they will not know their past until certain things happen. So, and truthfully, they could go on, be human, not even realize that they're technically exalted for their entire life. But once that comes to fruition, that they know that they are exalted, their lifespan becomes longer. And then they become hunted by the ones that kind of exactly, no power comes no responsibility. But they were hunted down by the Dragonborn. Now, the Dragonborn are broken into sects. You have water, fire, earth, and air. Those are the four sects, and they are led by the Jade Throne. And the Queen of the Jade Throne has ruled for many, many years until she disappears all of a sudden. At that point, where all those souls that of the Solars were imprisoned was in the Jade Prison. And when she disappeared, a fracture opened in that Jade Prison. And now all of a sudden, those essences of those who passed on are now being reborn again. And the Dragonborn are sworn to seek them out and destroy them. And to normal people or normal humans, the Exalted are viewed as evil and must be destroyed. It's kind of the if you think about it, the like the witch trials in Salem. They have to be hunted down. They have to be put to death because they're that evil.
So
Which actually
revealing
What
a
makes people
Solar's
actually think that they're so evil when they're not?
propaganda.
Well, propaganda, number one. Number two is because of what happened in the past. There was after the fall of the first age, which was when the Solar were the ones that actually ruled. That corruption where they were, not so nice people. Those stories propagated over the generations, and it's one of those things. It's like it's kind of like in I hate to say it, in real life. There are prejudices that are built and that are just built upon, and that's what happens.
Then why do they keep coming
just
back? Why?
I don't think they have a choice, do they?
no, they don't have.
Yeah,
a choice.
what forces them to come back?
The unconquered sun, which is their quote unquote father, which is the
And why doesn't it just step in and enlighten people, let them know that that's not actually what's going on?
Well, there's two ways to
Say.
look at that.
Okay. Has God come down and say, "Hey, y'all need to be nice to each other. Stop fighting each other. Stop wars. Stop everything." No, that's not the place of a God to do.
So it's not really a benevolent God. It's kind of a sadistic son of a bitch.
Well, once again,
he has other things that are more.
I mean,
that he takes care of.
His children. Gotcha.
That's kind of getting into the realms of free will, though, and bending free will against individuals who should, in theory, have it.
Honestly, when you're saying they were normal persons until something happens and they become exalted, I'm sorry, Queen's kind of magic Highlander theme soundtrack just ran through my head. It's like, wait. I could be Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod?
Basically, that's what with them. That's what happened. They didn't know that
but
they
it sounds
were.
Like they're being given a raw deal that is almost insurmountable.
Have you ever looked up the term martyr? Just throwing that out there.
Sure, but I mean, I'm trying to understand why they haven't given up or just gone to Daddy and said, "Hey, this ain't working. We need something a little bit, some of your juice."
Well, I think they get some of that in the form of anima or their magic and charm system. It's kind of like being chosen. So think of it from a D20 perspective as a paladin. You are chosen by your deity, by your favored deity, to go do a mission. Typically, that mission doesn't come down to you directly from the deity. It's typically their clergy members that offer you up that mission, or that go do this holy task. So I imagine it probably works a lot of the same way. And correct me if I'm wrong, Baron. Because I have played in the engine and played a little bit of the system. So it's not anima, it's anima. I will type that in chat for you. Anima.
Yeah, they come in coffee flavored.
Welcome to the show, Fat.
No, they're not flavored. That is nasty.
So, more to the point. So the unconquered sun is their creator. It's the over deity that made them. And that is the reason why the Exalted or the Solar themselves keep coming back and being reincarnated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if bad things went down in the first age and Solars during the second, and I'm assuming third age, because there is 3 ages to this, right?
Yep.
Okay, so the Solars are being hunted down during second and third age for whatever sins they committed in the past. So I'm assuming this anima or the magic system that they use, you said it produces an effect, and my assumption is that you don't want your anima to display because you would give yourself away as a Solar then.
Correct.
Okay. So careful with how much. When does that anima effect come into play?
After a certain amount of points are spent.
Okay. So using too much magic then can display your anima.
Correct.
And it gives you away as a solar. All right. Now
You can also, if you will it, have it come out also. But
And
okay,
what happens if
you have control of it to, have it come out and then bring it back in. It's
Okay.
not.
And if you get caught using your magic, what happens?
You're hunted down.
Okay.
And
then a hunt
what
begins.
happens when you're caught? Then what happens?
Yo,
Make a new character.
How? I mean,
Or fight like hell.
you're what I'm hearing is you're an angel. They catch you and they can kill angels. Is that what you're saying?
you're a demigod.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
kind of like
very, like Hercules, or if you think about like the Greek mythos, Zeus indirectly would come in and do things, but he wasn't allowed to affect things directly with his children or any of the other gods with their children. They may give them gifts. They may give them. You go back into the Great Recycler.
Great Recycler in the sky. So I assume that means you make a new character.
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, I think you said this behind the curtain. This is the precursor to what Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse, or not werewolf, whatever, turns out to be. This is like the world before that system kicks off.
This is a completely different system.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
There are many people who like to blend the systems of World of Darkness with Exalted. Some people have gone so far as to say like the Lunar are the most primal origins of werewolves. Bizzles are the most primal form of vampires. I do know that bit of fan fiction, but that's what it is. It's fan fiction. It's not actually written anywhere that I'm aware of.
That's fine. I mean, that works. I mean, this game has been out around. I remember a buddy of mine wanting to run this in the early 2000s. I know this has been around for a while.
And the thing is with the way the world is a flat world. It's actually legit a flat world.
Would you liken the world to that of Avatar?
Very similar.
Okay.
Avatar
the Airbender, not the blue people.
Not the blue cats, but the
and
the real Avatar.
And the edges of the world are basically controlled by the Fae, the wild Fae. You get out there, some weird things happen. Time dilations.
Discworld?
Kind of think Discworld without the turtle.
But I like the turtle.
No turtle for you.
But
okay, so I'm gonna get back to more mechanics here. You keep saying the term class when referring to Solar. What do you mean by class? Like, are we talking Ranger, Paladin? What are we talking?
Essentially 5 classes. You have the Dawn Cast, which are like the generals and warriors. The Zenith, which are the priests and the leaders, like the king type priest kings. You have the Twilight, who are the scholars, the savants, the magic, the heavy. If you want to think of like a wizard sorcerer, that is that guy. If you want to think of inventors, that is this guy. He's an artificer. He's a wizard. Depending on how you build him. You have the Night Cast, which are assassins and spies. And then last but not least, you have the Eclipse, which I kind of went over already, which are the diplomats and the ones that sanctify oaths and invoke a curse on oath breakers.
Actually, Chimerian has got a point here. Technically, outside of creation, it could be a turtle. We can't ever make it that far, but yeah. That's an interesting concept. I do believe Chimerian has played and loves Exalted as well. Welcome, yes. Chimerian.
No, Twilights do not sparkle.
Welcome, Crafty.
only car salesmen sparkle. Okay.
Oh my! Shots fired.
I've
I
never
don't
met
get to.
one of
I don't
those
get to.
ever.
I don't get to mess with him at all. So it's like, yeah, I get a shot. I'm going to take it.
Now,
Okay, so go ahead, Conall.
so you sit down at a table with these books, with I guess the handbook, and you see the classes. You just talked about the classes. What are is the classes and the race the same thing?
Everyone is a solar.
Solar,
Would be their race,
would
derivative of humans, basically. There are other classes built within in this. You do have the Lunar, which, if you want to think of, like your werewolf folks. You have the Sidereals, who are more considered more of the angelic, very much fate weavers, things along those lines. You have the Abyssals, which are the polar opposites of the Solars. I'm ignoring him. Yeah. You have the Terrestrials, who are your Dragonborn. There's also alchemical, that are basically what is it from Forgotten Realms? The mechanical guys.
Gotcha.
That basic- Well,
Warforges?
yeah, more like similar to Warforges. You have the Infernals, which are demons.
Yeah.
And you also do have some others like the Dragon Kings, who are who are basically pre-solar. They're kind of in between the think giant lizards, things along those lines. So there are several different races that can be chosen from, depending on how the DM or the storyteller wishes to address that. For the most part, a lot of them will allow the first three, which is a solar, lunar, and sidereal. But for the most part, a lot of them go with just the solar, just for ease, because once you start getting into the lunar and sidereal, the rules do change.
All right. I didn't mean to bound you that question quite yet. It's just I was curious.
Well,
That's okay.
It is a good question. People should know. Let's see here. Going through my questions.
Actually, I have one more major question. Then you can bounce in that if you. Now, I've known you for several years, Baron. I kind of get your personality, but what drew you to this game over to something else like I don't know, Fate, the Fate system? What makes this your game?
There's more. This is a dice pool game, number one. So there, it's a lot more of a. It's not as cut and dry if you're going to succeed or not, just because of the way that the dice pool is set up, and it's you can have some very, very big, epic, either epic victories, or very epic defeats. And that's the way that it can be. It is, those of you that are familiar with White Wolf, it is what they call the dot system. So every dot you have in something give you dice. So like if you're going to attack melee, you would use you're a melee user, you would do let's say you're doing unarmed combat, it would be your brawl plus your strength. If you are trying to throw something, it would be, or try to shoot, it would be like archery and your dexterity. So it's a the joke is that depending on how many hits you do get, or how many successes you have, you have to break out the cement mixer or dice to see and
Gotcha.
and see exactly, kind of like what if I'm not dumping a play Keg of dice, exactly.
Okay.
Typically, a normal success is a 7 or better, unless the storyteller does state otherwise. Now, the way that most of them will run it is the way the rules are written is that ones will detract from successes, but I don't like that. So typically when I run, I don't use that rule. But if you have no successes and get a 1, that's a failure, and that's when bad stuff can happen.
Now, knowing how Jaide rolls, this is going to be a very uncomfortable couple game sessions for him.
Actually, there are some house rules that we do have, and I know we haven't kind of gotten into there, but there are exploding 10s, and Jaide is known for the exploding 10s to the point that he was playing in a different game that had exploding dice in it, and his character's name was Thaddeus, and there was a homebrew thing of the Thaddeus rule, where you roll so much, okay, it's dead. Just stop rolling. It's dead. And
You
the
killed
whole
it, Jim?
thing of you killed my boom, splatter. That was literally how it would play out.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
I
roll. It's a over roll. So it'd be 7 or better, or if the storyteller 6 or better, or whatever. Now, when you are in combat, how you calculate your damage is you have a base amount. For every success over 1 that you have, you add an extra die to your damage.
Oh.
Wait, what was that?
And for every success that you have on
I thought you said 6. I'm like,
for
that's
every
weird.
success, you add another dice to your pool for your damage. Now, the 10s do explode in this. So if you roll a 10, then you roll another 10, then you roll another 10, then you roll another 10. At that point, I'm going to stop you and say it's dead. But that is how it will typically run for the damage and everything. But for like normal skills, typically you have to have a number of successes in order to be able to do something. So, for instance, if you are a Twilight and you're crafting a magical item, and you have 7 dice, and you get all 10s on those dice. I've seen it happen. And then you pick it up and you roll a few more 10s.
Are we going to be using a die roll generator next week?
Well, it's going to be in 3 weeks, but I do
weeks?
have it.
I thought it was this month.
Well, we got pushed back on the
okay.
on the table breaker side, so we that got pushed back also.
Sorry.
Conall went an extra week, and then we had the week that I was out, unfortunately, due to being sick, and then we had the
Nonsense week.
The kerfuffle week last week when we were talking about stupidity and everything. So, but it's going to be in 3 weeks, so we've got a little time with this, guys. Okay. So because
I've only got 2d10.
Well, there is a couple things now. Jaide, you shared earlier before we went on the air.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and bring that back up. Give me a sec. This is something that.
But I literally only got 2d10.
I was about ready to, support your local gamer, send him more dice. Charity run.
So this is a dice roller that a mutual friend of Baron, Conall, and myself made a couple years back now. This thing is capable of rolling up to 10,000 dice at once. There you go. There's a sample.
And if you look, it is very, very even across the board. I mean, there's nothing that glares too high, nothing that glares too low. The other one that I do use, Mike or Jaide, I threw that in the private chat.
Okay,
this one's a little bit nicer for the use, because you can set what your target threshold is, and your difficulty. So, and then you can push just the amount of dice you roll, and it'll tell you, what basically you have, and it'll give you the number of successes and things along those lines. So this is one that's free online. You can even it's got some other things in there and I don't even know if it still works or not. Oh, you have to load the XML file, but you can actually put your charms into it, stuff like that. But mostly the dice roller is good. So let's say the target's 4 or difficulty is 4. And then the target is, let's say it's going to be 6 because it's it should be a little bit better. You can tick off the tens twice. And then let's say you get 7 dice. You can go ahead and hit that. Oh, out of 7 dice, you had a threshold of 4 and you failed. Although, go ahead and roll that. Hit 1 on the die again. Okay, that was also a success. Was that an 8? So
yes,
technically, you would have succeeded in the roll. The more successes over the difficulty will give you better equations. So like this one, the threshold of success will give you, your how well you succeeded.
Okay. That's a very nice web tool. I'm imagining that's probably going to come into play when table breakers play your game of Exalted.
Yes.
Now, I'm wondering if this game was originally meant for these kind of tools, because I got a collection of D10s. I know you have a collection of D10s, and I know our host with the great cask behind him has a collection of D10s. But I think in the modern day, I think dice rollers like that for the system, and I could be wrong, will probably be the way to go. I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, yeah, definitely. If you're in the boat that Shadow's in, where he only has 2d10, something like this definitely would be a benefit, because then he doesn't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of free tool online to use. And you can use this for more than just Exalted. You can actually use this for Vampire. You can use this for Werewolf. Any of the D10 dot games, you can use this for. Scion, anything else. But those of us who love the shiny click clack math rocks, we do tend to hoard them like goblins, and we will definitely break them out if we need to.
I do have 2 full sets of 10d10, so does my wife. So we've played a lot of White Wolf.
The reason I don't have, the hoard you guys do is I hand them out to new players. Anytime I get extras, they go to new players, and I've probably given away 500 sets of dice in my lifetime. I used to have a big glass bowl about this big, and not anymore. Yeah, okay, more like about this big.
What I'm hearing for Shadow for his birthday, I'm going to send him a set of playing dice.
Pound of dice?
Just a pound of dice.
Pound of dice?
No, pound of D10s. You can buy them in a pound of D10s.
A pound of D10s. Goodness.
There you go. And he may not still have enough to play Exalted.
Exactly.
Anyways, I'll shut up and let you take back over there, Jade. I just had a couple of questions.
No, yeah. I've got the 2 of you rookie players to the World of Darkness, or rather the White Wolf game engines on, because you're going to think of questions that I'm not, because I already know a bit about the White Wolf game engines and how they work and whatnot. So I'm glad to have your questions and your feedback on this. So I guess let's get into some of the mechanics. Now, I do believe Bo was asking about this. You know, there is no levels that I am aware of, but there is skills, correct? Skills
Correct.
and traits
One-
or merits of some kind.
Yes, give me 1 second here.
Are you going to pull up a character sheet?
I am.
Awesome.
I'm actually looking forward to this game. I enjoyed it when a mutual friend of us ran it. I think scheduling just kind of became an issue.
Typically the case, yeah.
So I'm actually really looking forward to this campaign. If I could find a local DM that would actually run Exalted, at least once, maybe twice a month, I'd be happy, happy, happy.
I already showed my screen there.
Awesome. Here we go.
So this is the character sheet. This is a one you can do online. You can kind of just fill in, but this is everyone gets 1 dot in your attributes. So for character generation,
Real quick, do you mind closing the sidebar there of if you can, the sidebar of pages? Can you close that? Nope. Okay, unfortunate. Okay, that's fine. We'll just continue then. There you go.
do that a little bit. That's about as good as I can get her.
Awesome. So I'm seeing a bunch of little circles and some squares. Can you explain to us what some of this is?
Yep. Give me 1 moment here. I'm picking up my.
Actually, I'm going to move you to the center. I'm going to keep myself at the top. There we go.
Oh, I thought that said workaholic. Concept workaholic. No.
And those in the chat, let me know if you are having trouble reading that. I'll see what I can do on my end to clean any of that up. Actually, do you have a web page that you could post to me in the private chat, and I'll post it into the live chat. So if people want to follow along with what you're showing.
There you go.
All right, there we go. Oop, I just posted it in the wrong one. Whoopsie. There we go. Awesome. So if you want to look at the Exalted character sheet, it's in the live chat. Okay, so walk us through this if you wouldn't mind, please.
Waka waka waka.
Waka. Yeah.
So, you do get a 654 on your to choose your different attributes. So you have your physical stats, which is strength, dex, and stamina. You have your mental stats, which is perception, intelligence, and wisdom, and then you have your physical, or I don't know what you would call those. Sorry, I got a puppy barking out in the background. It's throwing me off. So for instance, if you're playing somebody who is more of a Twilight, you would probably start out just like I said, it's 654. So you have the first dots don't count. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll go there. So 1, 2, and 2, 3, 4. So basically, this would be a typical. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm gonna close my door because the Rocky's deciding he wants to be heard. So hold a second.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here, while you're doing that, I'll jump in real quick. So what we're seeing here is the physical traits, the social traits, and the mental traits of what makes a character a character.
Yes.
Okay. And then your concept is what kind of solar you are, correct?
Correct. So it'd be your cast, which is one of the 5.
Okay.
So let's just go clips, and then The concept, that's something you come up with your own. They have some preloaded ones on this sheet. So let's say professional diplomat, because you're in Eclipse, you're the diplomat.
10-1. That will not be the role that Bruce will take.
So then you go into, you can see where you have different of the abilities here. Now, this actually is a second edge sheet. The reason I know that is because there's war on it. So, but that would be the only one that would be on here that would not be on here. You would choose where you would want to go. So, like under Eclipse, you get.
So your type or your circle or whatever it is, it determines what skills you start with.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So it is kind of like a D20 class.
Correct. Now the thing is that for each one of these dots, it's 1, 2, 4. So at this point, you're looking at 4, 5, 6, 7 points for bureaucracy.
Okay. So
right.
it's exponential growth.
Correct. And there are not any type of where you level up. What you will do is that you will spend your XP. You'll get XP at the end of either each game session or every other game session, and then you'll use that XP to buy more dots, buy additional skills, things along those lines. Like for instance, let's say that you're a dawn cast, but you're going to be on it. You find out you're going to be on a ship. Well, you can spend a point when you have downtime to learn sailing, which will give you you use let's say you're going to help with the rigging. You would use your dexterity along with your sailing in order to be able to help with the rigging and all that and whatnot. So you're not locked into the skills that are necessarily there. So which is actually really good.
So if I was playing, let's say, this Dawncast that you've got displayed here, and I'm more of a diplomat, and let's say I'm going to continue with your sailing mention there. So if I don't have any dots in sailing and I want to try to help out on the ship, what can I roll? What, like, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to help out on the ship. I'm going to learn the rigging and do what I can, pitch in. What would you tell me to do to be able to, I guess, have a success at, or, is some kind of like pass fail method? Like what would that sound like or look like?
Well, let's say we'll go back to the rigging. Let's say you have nothing in sail. So you would use that either strength or dexterity, whichever would be higher. So let's say that you decided instead of stamina, you put it in strength. You got the 2 dots in strength. Yep, right there. So you've got your dots in strength. So you would just roll your straight strength, because since you don't have dot. So
what does that translate to rolling wise?
3 dice.
3 dice. Okay, so each dot represents a die then.
Correct.
Awesome.
Now, if you had 2 in sailing and you use your strength, that would give you a total of 5 dice.
Okay. And then this is where that threshold of success comes in, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I need so many successes.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, being that you may never have been on a ship, your success threshold may be higher than someone else who, let's say, in their background, they were a sailor before they found out they were exalted.
Okay.
They would have a better, let's say they have, a better grasp of what to do on a ship. than what you would normally not have, being a quote unquote land lover. And so your threshold may be an 8, where their threshold may be like a 6, because for them it's like an everyday task, would be considered like an everyday task, as opposed to something you're learning or you've not done before. So it's that comes up to the storyteller's discretion on what those thresholds are, and those thresholds could be different for different people.
So, is there any recourse for a player to say, well, I may not be as experienced on a sailing vessel, but I've got river vessel training? Would they be able to maybe influence your judgment that way?
That would probably make it a dead even, because base is 7 for all your skill type checks. So, whereas, something you would do like every day would be a 6 because you were on a actual sea sailing ship. You would be more apt to know what to do. Whereas if you're on a river ship, the basic principles are the same. It's just, it is slightly different, but principle wise, it's the same. So whereas you would just have the normal threshold of the 7.
Okay. And so that's skill resolution. Shall we talk about what are they merits? Are they traits? What are the abilities that Exalted use?
So those are the charms, which there is a huge list of charms.
I don't think we need the full list. What do charms do? Can you sum up what they do?
Well, here. Do this. So, certain casts have certain innate charms that they're good with, but you can do, pretty much any charm that you wish. So for instance, under archery, you have the Rain of Feathered Death. This is the one that I was talking about, where you have to have minimums of archery and how much essence that it does cost for you to do it. And it is the prerequisites. You do have to have prerequisites. So if you want to think of it in like a 3035, there are prerequisites for feats. And to be able to learn the next circle of magic, I guess is the best way to put it, is you have to know the circle before. So the like with this one, the charm creates duplicate of Exalt arrow, arrow base attack, usually meaning that one arrow or fire one charge becomes several in flight. That is one of the ones that they had. Now,
so and that's more for combat. Can you give us an example of what non-combat charms would look like? Let's say for that diplomat that we were just discussing a moment ago.
Sure. And we'll go back to the top here.
Yeah, and as as much as there is combat in Exalted, I am aware of it. Exalted is more than just a beat 'em up, knock 'em down, kick in the door type game. It is very centered, at least in my experiences, is very centered around actual role play, more so than combat. The general consensus of the few games that I've been in with the game masters that I've had is the game master would explain, if you find yourself in combat somewhere, somehow you fucked up, because they were more interested in seeing how you role played and problem solved through a situation rather than resort to violence. And that's always what kind of intrigued me about a lot of the World of Darkness, White Wolf game engines, was it was more about what you say and the actions you take, more so than the violence and amount of damage you can pump out.
Okay.
So for instance, like, you talk about, one that's non-combat, judges your ear technique. The Lawgivers and Guardians of Truth charms allow the character to recognize as to recognize as lies all deliberate lies presented to them. Character can
like a
also
zone of truth.
recognize, yeah, basically like a zone of truth.
Okay.
You know, you also have, you know, the courier's eye technique. You know, understand the harmonies of the world. Character to check others' importance of wealth at a glance.
Okay.
Okay. So kind of a quick appraisal. Okay.
Yeah. Consumer evaluation glance. This one's always a fun one too. Know the soul's price. Everyone has a price. You know, this is I call this one the $1 million man charm. Even those whom Jaide coined, which Jaide is the currency here within the game.
That's right.
System.
I'm the currency.
I'll make that a little bit bigger. So 1 second here. Oh. Of course, it reset when I made it bigger. So give me a second here. Let me put that up. And then you also have things, you know, resistances. Ox body is one that's usually an automatic gimme that most DMs will give you. Basically, it gives you a little bit more health. It makes you a little bit more survivable.
Well, Ox being a big boy means your well, is it Constitution based on hit points, or is it like something else?
It is based off of your, I believe it's willpower and.
Yeah, Kai, I wonder if that's if it's required only because people are wanting to be murder hobos and they just don't have the health for it.
Most likely.
Yes, soak.
Yeah, pretty much soak.
Well,
so
maybe I'm missing something, but do you start off the game not knowing that you're an Exalted?
Yes, but that doesn't mean you don't automatically have this.
Right, and then once you find out, what's to keep you from just shredding through everything that's in your way?
Well, the dragon blooded for one. Number two, typically,
if you get exposed as an Exalted,
yeah,
that begins a hunt, doesn't it?
Correct.
And then you're running for your life.
And then you have, you know,
but why?
You know, presence.
I'm failing to. I mean, it just seems like an endless cycle of die, come back to Earth, die, come back to Earth. What's the end?
That's what it's been. That's what it's been for the Exalted for a very long time. That is the way that the Exalted are.
So what should to that end, I think, Shadow, what you might be asking is why do the Exalted keep trying? Is that what you mean?
Right. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
What keeps them going?
Basically, they want to prove that they're not as bad as everyone thinks they are. They want to prove that they are not the bad guys.
Now, I know your game won't go this
just
way.
Do that by just surrendering and saying, "Fine, here we are." You know, let's get this over with. Put an end to the cycle of constant, you know.
Then you have no game.
Well, I get that, but it seems like there's no end. There is no end game. Period.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. If the ultimate.
How can you ever prove that you're not the bad guys?
By not being the bad guy?
Yeah, I think it's one of those uphill battles for people's whose reputation have been ruined in some horrific way, and it's always like you're trying to prove that you aren't as horrible as the rumors. That's kind of the feel I'm getting from it. It's just more.
I'm going to take a rough go at this. By the definition that our guest, Baron, has been saying, I'm going to use a different medium. I'm going to say like the X-Men comics. Not all mutants are evil, but because you're a mutant, you're being hunted down by the normies. Would you say that's a fair?
Yeah.
Or am I off my mark?
No, you're actually, that is basically one of the best ways to put it. You know, the all mutants are viewed as evil because they're different, because of that they have the powers, they have everything else. And you know, the dragon blooded have been the police force that have kept things in line and kept them down, so to speak. And you know, that is the thing, is that they are the types that you can beat them down 100,000 million times, they're going to keep coming back.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Kai adds in on this. The Solars were given a mandate to rule creation. I'm assuming this is by the Unconquered Sun. And despite the usurpation by the Dragon Blooded, so they were kicked out of their heavenly palaces, I'm assuming, and the Bronze Sidereals. And eventually some Solar will reestablish the Solar Deliberative. Can you expand upon that? What he means by that, Baron?
Yeah, basically they were the Solar in the First Age were the ones that were tasked by the Unconquered Sun to rule. They were the ones that were the rulers, the gatekeepers, so to speak, to keep law, justice, and everything else. But it's like, you know, anything else, you know, they got complacent, they got usurped by the Dragon Blooded and the Bronze Sidereal, and you know, they are trying to reestablish that rule. And also, and that's why they keep coming back, is because the Unconquered Sun has given them the mandate that you've got to keep the peace. You have to save the world.
So Daddy gave a marching order, and we have to do what Daddy says, and this is...
Well, yeah.
But
he's the Unconquered Sun.
Right.
So we're all basically paladins then.
Yes.
No, I get all that. It seems like the Unconquered Sun was actually conquered. His will was usurped, or it's not. And then if this is his will, then, you know, that sounds rather not good.
Well, the Dragonborn were also put on the planet by the Unconquered Sun also. They are also his creations. But they were there as the failsafe.
Oh God!
They were Batman's plan for the Justice League, essentially. If you want to think of it that way.
Okay.
Say again.
So
I don't know what you mean by Batman's plan.
So set the Wayback Machine to, I think, the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. There was a movie put out. I think it was a Justice League film of some kind. And Batman had recorded himself in saying how to defeat every single member of the Justice League at the time.
It is
as a fail-safe method in case any one member went rogue.
I don't know when it was, what year it came out, but it's Batman's Tower of Babel, where just in case the Justice League went rogue, because it has happened, Superman, you know, has gone bad so far, he has put a list together on his computer how to stop each and every one of the members. And by the definition, by where Baron is going with this, the Dragonborn were sent to planet blah 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 to make sure these guys stay in line, but things kind of went sideways from my understanding.
Correct.
Okay. I get this. Woohoo! I understand the
So
assignment.
with the dragon blooded being the failsafe for if the Solars went bad, why did they usurp the Solars? Like, what was the cause of that?
Because they started to get corrupt from the power.
Okay. So then what happened to the Solars who went corrupt then? Are they still being recycled?
That is a very good question, because not all of them know. Some of them actually wound up falling, and when they fell, they became abyssals. So they went to serve the underworld, basically. So a lot of those, it was kind of like the falling from grace, the great curse. And they fell.
What is the great curse?
The great curse is basically, for the long and short of it, the great curse was the curse that was leveled by the primordials on the Exalted as they died. The curse.
Oh, so the primordials were the ancient enemy, right? The enemies of the original enemies of the unconquered sun.
Exactly. And as they died, when they started coming back, they were subject to melancholy, violent outbursts, and it didn't affect everybody.
But it affected enough of them to gain the bad rap then.
Exactly.
What's the term I want to use? How Abrahamic?
Okay.
It doesn't.
Kai is chiming in here.
Yeah, Kai,
Kai, you're welcome to join if you wish. I know you know a lot of the lore.
Abrahamic? Is that the right wordage?
What?
Abrahamic. I'm saying it wrong. I know I'm saying it wrong. The Christian, dogma. God made things.
I sent Kai a direct link if he wants to hop in, if he's got time.
Yeah, basically, it was their final act, and basically, the mirrors of their virtues, which went on to actually, create the abyssals. Some of them fell that way too.
Move that real quick. Please welcome onto the stream, Sir Green Sun Prince. Prince. What is that? Kai. Green Sun Prince Kai. There we go.
Are you like Prince with the name, or Princess as the symbol?
Green Sun Prince, also known as some of the fallen Solars, because not every Solar who fell stayed in good graces. Some were in prison and thus dragged into hell upon their release. The Green Sun Princes are also they're also known as the Abyssals. They're beautiful, wonderful, terrible things. They are a dark, horrifying mutant mirror of everything that you Solars think and believe to be good. They are a terrifying mirror of it, and they live to pervert every joy and positive aspect. But also, the Great Curse really is, when you're making your character, one of your most important things is you have to establish is you have a virtue. Like character sheet. I need to find that character sheet that was posted a bit ago. I'm sorry.
Baron, you got that character sheet back up?
I got it right here. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's
been a while since I pulled up this character sheet. Crud muffins. Character sheet. Okay. If you look at the character sheet, you'll notice that you do have these wonderful things that are your virtue. Do we have virtues in this? Yes. Compassion, temperance, conviction, and valor. You will inevitably have one that is your highest. if you are one of those people who is like, now I balanced them all out, congratulations, you're the most boring person in the entire world. You are not dramatic, and you are inevitably going to be boring. But
you are one of my favorite people.
What was that?
Kai, you are one of my favorite people.
I have it shared, Jade, if you want to.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Just popping that back up.
But inevitably, you're going to have something as that is your primary virtue. You either care about something or you believe in, control. You're convicted to it. Your valor, you're brave, and all this. And they give you these bonuses that are wonderful. But the thing is the great curse that was placed upon every Solar when inevitably the heroes, the good guys, Solars, defeated the Titans after a lot of us died numerous times. But don't worry, that's the fun part about being an immortal reincarnating badass is that, well, you get a new body, it's miserable, but you're a weapon. Congratulations. Continue to be one until victory. By the way, we won, but we were cursed. And the bad part about here is that when your virtue, your highest virtue, as you play the game, you're going to earn stress points that are going to slowly push you towards failure. You're going to it's going to happen by role play. It's going to happen, and these points that yes.
Would it be safe to say that this would be like the corruption or corrupting of a paladin against their oath? Like you keep putting them into moral quandaries until one day they are forced to break their oth to achieve the best good.
In short, yes. And the thing is that when you hit your break limit, your limit break, you have this. You in essence become for a short amount of time, a dark mirror of what your highest virtues. Like, say you were the brave, you're the bravest of all brave characters, and you've just been put into enough bad situations, and you snap. The curse kicks in, and now you have to determine, how you're going to be the mirror of valor. You've been, self-control is your highest thing, and eventually it's like your temperance is high. You're like, oh, I'm going to be very, very, I'm so pious, and it's like everything's like, and you limit break something like it's now time for. You're going to be the indulgent person that you've been resisting in temptation and indulgence. Now you're just going to become horrible. And this is what was slowly what provoked the great assertion in the first place. The great coup by the Dragon-Blooded was because the Solars, you are a naturally long-lived creature as a Solar. Like your lifespan is what makes elves look pathetic and boring and short-lived. You potentially have a lifespan of tens of thousands of years. No one's really ever found out what the Solar's natural lifespan is. But the thing is, as you live, the curse slowly gets stronger and more intense. And during the first age, you suddenly had Solars who weren't dying every 4 to 5 years in horrible conflict. They were now living for 100, 200. You're running into the Time Lord problem of now you've been alive for 500 years or 1,000. What keeps you going? And slowly the decadence, the corruption, and the various things all came together, and it produced the moment of the Solars were going crazy, is what was happening. Creation depended on these guys to be the pillars that kept all of the world running. And their magics powered everything. They were great and powerful kings. They pushed back the borders of reality, fought back the fought back the Feywilds. They established great and glorious empires. Their lunar cohorts and consorts were at their side, being their generals, and the Dragon-Blooded were their troops and their soldiers, and the Sidereals were their advisors. It was a perfect system created by the gods, but cursed by the Titans, by the Primordials when they fell. And slowly, finally, it reached its pinnacle point where insanity was now ripe, and a group of Sidereals said, I looked into the Loom of Fate, which is, by the way, a real thing. A bunch of spiders, run Fate. They saw that the world was going to come to a horrifying end, and they had to do something to save it. But to do that, they had to burn out the Solars because they were the cause of it. So you had to get rid of the group of insane maniacs who have too much power and who are invincible. And so on New Year's Day, there was a great feast, and they murdered 99.5% of them all. And the 0.5% who escaped became labeled anathema, and thus they were hunted. But the problem was the entire world is rigged to be the entire world is built around, dude, great powerful god kings can run everything, and now there's no more great and powerful god kings who are running everything. So the world's kind of in a slow, spiraling descent into chaos and disorder because there's nobody who's guarding it, because the people who were supposed to guard it are now dead or imprisoned or running in fear and hiding. And so for thousands of years, the world is literally decaying into a horrible mess. And something happened. That's for GMs to know and players not to figure out, or to figure out in time. It's a great book. Something happened, and now Solars are back. The world now has thousands of years of propaganda saying that if you see somebody who has the mark of the unconquered sun, they are terrifying monsters who will overthrow the world. Do not let them live. You have to fight.
Not a witch to live.
Right. You cannot let these people live, because if they do, they will overthrow creation. So you go to your local monks who are a bunch of anti-magic badass super monks who will show up there like the Inquisition in 40K and punch everyone to death. And it's beautiful when it happens. Sorry, as a GM, it's beautiful. As a sidereal, it's beautiful. You gotta watch these monks go out there, and then if they lose, you call in the Dragon Blooded Strike teams, which at that point it's Power Rangers. Get used to the idea of Captain Planet bullshit happening, and however cool you think you are, and you are awesome. As soon as the red, blue, green Rangers show up, you're fucked.
I'm more of a White Ranger, but I get your point.
Oh no, there's a white one too. You got Spirit in there too. Come on, there's Heart.
I guess for the sake of explaining like what the system is like. Thank you for giving us such a rich lore.
I'm sorry that.
And no, I appreciate that. I wouldn't have had you on the stream if I wasn't expecting this. So I appreciate the amount of information you gave us, because it's very clarifying as to like why the Solars are and what they are, what their purpose is. And
one important detail to remember here is that this game was created and written to have a non-Western point of view. So take any of your Abrahamic beliefs and put them on a shelf. They are not part of this world. They're not part of the game.
That's more than fair. It's just how it's slightly described. Like, it sounds fairly.
Honestly, it sounds more like Greek mythos and Greek tragedy to me. It pulls heavily from Hindu. It pulls heavily from a lot of Eastern religions and faiths, a lot of Eastern religion myths. I mean, okay.
One of the important things you got to realize here is that heaven is not a reward. It's not a place you go to. Hell is not really hell. It exists. It's terrible. It's where 2/3 of the primordials have been banished to, and they do call them demons, but they're not really demons. Yeah, if they were ever given the chance to break out and spread, they're more primordial alien creatures that hate you because you beat them at a war. They weren't created to be evil. They're just alien. They're just, that's the biggest thing of it, is that they're alien. There is an afterlife, but it's more akin to the realm of Hades from Greek myth. it really is a world where is there gods? Yes, but they're terrestrial and celestial gods. So you might be in just general luck to go, crud. The local river god is being pissed and flooding some fields today. I'm going to go over there and punch him in the face and tell him to stop flooding the fields. That's a legitimate thing. Most people will go, I can't fight a god. And a Solar goes, you know what? I want some good harvest today. So I'm going to go out into the field and punch the field god in the face a few times until he stops being a bastard. That's a legitimate thing you can do. So the spirit world is literally great. I need to take care of some things. I'm going to go talk to the local wind spirit and figure out why the rain isn't happening today. That's very much that pulls a lot from Shinto beliefs right there. And going to heaven, you're going to find out that heaven is a horrifying bureaucracy that just runs itself, and it's been perpetuated because the bureaucracy. You got to realize, heaven was created by the Titans, by the Primordials, because they found out that being God is hard, and creation is very complex. So to lessen the workload, they created the gods. And the gods were like, man, this is really hard. So they created lesser gods to do the bureaucracy of what makes the heavens work. And eventually the Titans were like, man, it's so awesome being on top. And then the gods, we want to be on top too. No, you can't. You can't fight us. We created you, so you can't fight us. So the gods, so we can't fight you, but the humans can, right? Well, the humans are wimpy and pathetic. Oh, look at that. We made Exalted. The Exalted can fight you. The Titans, that's bullshit. You can't. We can. That's what we did. And that's the Titan War happens. We won. And now we're in the game. Congratulations.
Okay. Let's see here. So, is there anything that we haven't covered that's relatively important to playing the game itself? Obviously, the game master, storyteller. Storyteller is the official referee title for this, I believe. As with most White Wolf product, or now Paradox International. So the storyteller is going to have scenarios that the players are going to have to figure out and problem solve their way through. Is there anything we have not covered about playing the game itself that it really needs to be said?
I mean, we pretty much went through the mechanics of how the dice rolls are basically taken care of. The different thresholds, the dice pool system, and money is relative. Correct. The money is in, as I said before, is in jades. So you have coins up to bars and above. That is the currency of it. There are, when you go into certain places, there are certain etiquette that does need to be recognized. So, for instance, if you go into I just drew a blank.
No. Well, so
Sorry,
beyond that, let me ask this though: as a player, or as a new player, even to Exalted, what should I be trying to do or expect from the game itself? And in that, I mean, when I sit down to play a D20 fantasy D20 game, I have certain goals for the character I'm designing or building or whatever terms you want to use. And those goals typically are relatively selfish. The characters I build for, and many people build for D20 based systems, have more selfish goals because they're in it for themselves and their own survival. What should a person sitting down to play as a solar, what should they consider their goals to be? Their motivation. Thank you. I hadn't even seen that. What should their motivations be in general when they're sitting down to conceptualize this character?
Whatever they want it to be. Where do they see their character? How do they want to get, when at the end of the day, what is the thing that drives them in life? It varies from person to person. It comes back to the concept they have for the player, or for the player has, and and they have to come up with what their motivation is for where they see where their own end game is. Are they for instance, are they a diplomat and they want to see world peace? Are they a tradesperson, and if are they out looking for honor and glory? How do they feel that they're going to be able to get that? If like I was saying before, if they're a merchant, how are they going to be the biggest merchant in this area? How do they foresee that happening? For their motivation, what would they say that yes, this is my goal, and this is where I would say that yes, I've achieved the goal.
Well, I think my question is more about should there be anything that would influence their decision on making their motivation, given the fact that we now know what solars are and where they came from, as well as what happened to them. Like, should that have any influence on character creation and their motivation?
It's up to the player. If they, there's not a cookie cutter. That's that's one thing I love about this game. It's not a cookie cutter. You can have for instance, a Twilight who is a crafter and only a crafter. You can have a Twilight that does nothing but is a spell slinger. It is how you want to build that character. It, like for instance, Eclipse. We put up the diplomat. Before, if he just wants to be a courier that's delivering messages, or he wants to have a courier company where he's delivering the missives across the continent. That how you can build that character. It is really up to how you conceptualize your character and how you want to build him or her.
Okay. Now, granted, I am a type of player that I will, if I know the history of a thing, I'm going to probably try to play to some extent upon that history. Or
he cut out. You cut out there.
Oh, Kai. Kai had to get back to family stuff.
You cut out.
Oh, me. I cut out.
Yes.
Yeah. My connection is weird. And I'm hardwired. The hell?
I have
that's weird.
I got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
As being a new player, let's say you're running. Well, you are going to be running this campaign. Let's say you decide to run this at Game Shop, and you put up a sign, and you got 4 or 5, 6 people, whatever your party limit is. And they're all new players. Do you give them pre-gen characters to let them work out the bumps, or do you just put the book in front of them and give them a rough detail what the game is about and let them build their own characters?
To the point, usually for me, what I will do is I will let them allocate their points first on what their concept is going to be. So for instance, we're looking at the their attributes. what their concept is, what casts they're going to be, and then let them allocate their points, here in their attributes where they want to be. Then, basically say, well, what kind of skills do you want? Because if you take, your class skills, they're going to cost a little bit less. I think anything that's non-class skills costs double at character creation. So that is one thing to kind of keep in mind too, is that especially, if you're going to have, let's say, an eclipse, but you're going to go into archery, you want to make sure that you've got enough points to be able to take enough points in archery to be able to do that skill effectively. And this is where kind of the meat and potatoes with your abilities along with your attributes are going to factor into how your dice rolls are going to go and whatnot. Also, this also helps with the way that your gameplay is going to go. And then when it comes down to the charms and all that, that's where I typically break out and go, okay, the charms are going to be a little bit different. And I'll even ask, what's your concept, and I'll help you put those charms in a little bit easier than what I mean. I could pre-gen characters are okay, but it's not always the best for everyone's gameplay.
Oh, that's more than fair. As has been pointed out numerous times, I am new. I'm not going to even count the month and a half that we played with a former DM, and so that was more than 13 years ago. So yeah, I'm going to say I'm a fairly new character. So I let's say I want to play. I normally play archers, but let's say I want to do something other than archers. Man, the whole paladin thing kind of.
Well, okay. So when I say paladin, like, don't necessarily think D&D paladin, because they have a very tight moral code that they have to follow. I believe the Solars are not quite as bound as the D&D paladins. That said, you still have a corruption factor that I can't remember what it was called. But stress points. You still have that in your virtues, and if you act, I think, against your virtue too much, you start corrupting. It's very similar to a paladin in, let's say, 3.0. If you start acting against your god's tenets or decrees, you will become basically a fighter without feats. You'll become powerless because you've broken your oath.
The way that it works in this system is that once you hit your limit, for the time that because you have your virtue, and then you have your flaw. And like, for instance, if you are very let's say you have valor, you could, or temperance. Okay, I'll use temperance. Your flaw, berserk anger, where you just go and you kill anything that's in front of you. You see red, and that's just what happens. Then you have overindulgence. Your conviction goes. You have gone against your conviction so much. You're overindulgent, so you get drunk. You overeat. You go to the ladies of the night. Give into, basically what you want to look at is your flaw is kind of your sin. This is the sin that when you are at your point break, that's what happens. And typically what happens at that point, the storyteller takes over your character, and the thing to also remember is that like the Nightcast, like I said before, the Nightcast are the spies and assassins. So they're kind of your rogue types, whereas your zeniths are more of your priests. So your paladin / priest type. The dawn cast or your warrior cast. And the eclipse are, the eclipse for all intents and purposes are a bard on steroids. It's a bard that actually works.
I disbelieve that.
Shots
That
fired.
sounds heresy.
But I mean, that to put it into a D&D esque type explanation, that is basically the explanation there. In the Twilight, as I said before, they're your sorcerers, your wizards, your crafters, your artificers, your
scholars.
Yeah, your scholars. They're the ones that you're going to look at and be like, oh well, how does this work? And they go, oh well, you know what, that falls under the occult. They also do medicine. They're your lore folks. That is where a lot of their bread and butter is in the investigation, lore, medicine, and occult. The zenith is in performance, presence, resistance, survival. Your dawn or is your melee / artillery piece, if you want to look at it that way. Your night cast, that's larceny. That's the skill. Larceny. So if you decide you want to go in and you're going to go out and you're going to go to the bar and you're going to start cutting purses and taking money, guess what? There you go. So it's not necessarily of thinking them as paladins. They are, as Jonah Leah put in chat, think more Blues Brothers. They're on a mission from God.
That
Do we ever actually know? Go ahead.
I was about to say that sounds fun. As long as I can be Dan Aykroyd's character, that'd be amazing.
So, given that we are basically the Blues Brothers, or the what are they called? The Connor Brothers mission from God. Do we know what that mission is at any given time? Like, you say we exalt, like we're normal people, and then suddenly something happens that causes us to exalt. Does that give us our marching orders or something?
It can.
Okay.
The world is a very, very interesting place. And there's always things that are happening. There are always things that need to be attended to. The Exalted are typically the ones that attend to those things.
So they're the chosen heroes then, by the unconquered sun or God or the divine being. Okay.
Correct.
Is there any other questions that we have in the last 20 minutes?
I'm trying to think.
Anything else anyone would like to know?
I think this is going to be fun. Like I said, played it years ago. I had a good time with it. I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
And we are going to be playing in that same DM that ran it for you, Conall. And we are playing it in his world, so there's going to be a little bit of tweaks here and there on some things, and it's going to be very interesting.
Certain thematic elements.
Yep.
That sounds amazing. God, I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, no worries. We can start our outros if that's fine by everyone. If no more questions, and also questions from chat. Is there anything from chat that we haven't covered that you want to know about? Nope. I got a new comment. And what about them? Yes. What about Dement's management rules for those of us who want to play or want to go create our own kingdoms with games of chance and ladies of the night.
Games of chance dens of iniquity do exist. So yeah, you can definitely, if you wish to find that, that's the beauty with the White Wolf system, is that you can insert your own things. If you decide you want to insert, the Strippers Guild into your game, it's like any other game. You definitely can. It's storyteller's choice. So but games of chance, ladies of the night, yes, those do exist. Yeah.
What about, as they say, what about Dement's rule management rules? Like, for example, if they wanted to build their own kingdoms, is there provisions for that in the game?
There are not, but this kind of predates a lot of the kingdom building aspects that were out there. Theoretically, you could. The thing is that you would have to be mindful of the other forces that are at work.
So if for example, I'm going to use Charlotte's example here. If, for example, I had a diplomat type of Solar, and my goal was to carve out, a kingdom and bring the Solars back into vogue, so to say, or power, and get, the great things working again, and having the Solars work for the betterment of the world. And I went about it in a very sly or very underhanded method, by never showing that I'm a Solar, never actually, showing the world what I truly am. I could still do it up until some spy found out that I was a Solar. Then I'd be, on the run, right?
Well, in truthfully, within the game world, there is a place where that is actually beginning. It's called a place called excuse me, a place called the Lap, and essentially the Lap is a kind of, if you want to think of a large Buddha, and basically it is a city that is built on the legs of this huge statue. I mean, it's think size wise, think roughly maybe Manhattan, and probably as tall as Mount Everest. It is something that was carved out of the mountain. That is the lore. It was carved out of the mountain, but that's where a lot of that's where the Solar Liberation Army, I guess is the best way to put it, is housed, and it tends to not be messed with because there's just so many there, and it would definitely be a task to go in for the Dragon Blooded. It would be a bloodbath for both sides. So that's kind of one of those things of, all right, if you're in that area, as long as you stay in that area, okay.
So we have roughly 15 minutes left of the evening. I'm going to go ahead and start the outros. I think we've covered pretty much everything that we need to. Shadow, do you have any questions remaining on Exalted?
No, not yet. I'm sure I'll come up with some.
Okay. Conall, any further questions on Exalted?
Yeah. When we do it on Table Breakers and I turned out really love it, can I show up at your house every other Saturday and bend your elbow into bend your arm until you're able to DM it? More than just for a 4-hour session.
We'll talk.
All right.
If not,
Charlotte
if not, we'll make Todd do it.
I'm
There you go.
5x5 with that. I haven't got to torture Todd in some time.
Oh, second ed core book had mass combat and domain stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
With the mass combat, we typically I play first ed, and with the mass combat, basically, there are enough of the different things that you can take for your charms. Mass combat really combat in general really should take about a round or two. Combat is not like the main driving force in it, so it typically is, like I said, it's more about role playing and skill based role playing as opposed to fighting role playing. Yes, there is the fighting aspect in there, but it is the way that it's set up is it the fighting and combat side is not as crunchy as some other systems.
okay. Well, without further ado, I think we're good to unless again, Charlotte, if you got any more questions, I think we're good to start our outros. I'm going to start this time at the bottom of the list with Shadow. What you got going this week, sir?
The usual father and son stuff, crafts and painting, game reviews. Tomorrow night we've got a craft video where we're going to be making desert islands and things like that for war game situations, naval war games, and then hanging out with you guys Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This Saturday's a game with Bruce, is it not?
It should
And
be.
and maybe hanging out with Max. We'll see. I've got a lot of games that I'm going to be in. That's what my video was about earlier today. I've been invited to no less than 6 different games, and I've already played in a couple of brand new games this month. And my time is getting stretched really, really thin with all the invites into some really, really great games. Pugmire, Adventure Conquer King with Fritz, a Traveler game with Rick and Avenger Satanis, and of course, Bo Paints Minis. He's too humble and shy a guy to let you guys all know. He just started his own channel, and he's a really good guy who really not only deserves but needs the subs so that he can get to 50 so he can start doing some live streaming himself. So if you haven't subscribed to Bo Paints Minis, get out there and do so. You will not regret it.
Before we get to Conall, Baron, are there any naval adventure, or is there anything for naval adventures, or maybe ship combat rules?
Ship combat rules, typically you'll follow the normal combat cycles for that, which if you're doing ship to ship, of course, if there's cannons, whatever. The thing is the, as Kai put it, you're thinking more of a Eastern mentality, where it was actually a lot of not necessarily naval type combat, but more of a, you have more of on the ship type combat. So not necessarily cannons and things along those lines, but it's more of a, oh, well, we're going to go onto that ship and take it over and take that ship. So it's more boarding actions and things along those lines. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Conall, what do you got going this week?
Well, tomorrow I'll be talking about dragos or dragons or big toasters in the sky, depends on what color they are. That's Table Breakers. Friday night, I think I might be playing Kingmakers with a new group of people, which could be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Although Pathfinder 2 is starting to give me it's not starting to, it is giving me a headache. Saturday, I will be hanging out with Shadow and Bruce and doing all kinds of RPG slash political slash other coffee commercial shenanigans. Sunday. I would like to say reviewing Blank, but I'm not 100% sure what Blank is yet. But we're venturing into next month of February, and I'm a hopeless romantic for those who didn't know. So I like watching not rom-coms, but fantasy movies with a romantic twist, like Timeline or Excalibur, or just to name a few. So I think that's the route that we're going for next month on Sunday review. And if anybody in the chat has a suggestion, I'd love to hear it. But you will find me on Cigar DM and with Shadow, Omanau, Jack, Lady Hawk. Yeah, trust me, that movie's been thrown around a few times. So, yeah, it should be fun. Remember, Valentine's is more about chocolate. It's about smothering with a pillow the person you love.
Okay, I think this is going to be the last question for the evening, and I'm going to field this to Baron again. What about aerial combat? Eastern myths are full of stories involving characters flying in the sky.
There are Zeppelin-type balloons. So yeah, you can. There is some aerial in there, but once again, you're looking at more of a ship-to-ship type combat. There's not really the boarding actions and stuff like that. There's not really a actual mechanic for that I'm aware of, at least in first ed.
Okay.
How do you board
Shadow.
a blimp from another blimp? Just trying to picture that.
You become Errol Flint.
Charms will
Anything
allow you
to grab onto the other blimp sounds like it's gonna pop the blimp.
Yeah, carefully.
Heidenberg, anybody?
There are powers and abilities that allow you to fly, though, temporarily, right?
Yes.
But that just gets you targeted by everything around you. Even your own people.
Risk reward.
What's the friggin' point?
Risk reward.
Risk reward.
Well,
We're being assailed by a Zeppelin.
There is literally no reward.
Yes, there is. Now you have two blimps if you can pull it off.
No, I didn't mean that. You can't risk your thing. There is no reward, just death.
Well, death is a relative, by the way I'm understanding it.
Yeah. So the way I understand it as well is, even if your character dies, their soul gets recycled and eventually comes back. It's really like, what do you do? It's more about your journey rather than your destination at that point. What you do matters more than where you went, or rather, what actions you take matter more than where you ended up. So if taking out a Zeppelin, an enemy Zeppelin, furthers the goals of the rest of your group, would you willingly attempt it? Knowing that it's going to put the enemy weeks, months, or maybe even years behind, away from you or away from your group. I think that's the way I would think about it. It's like, okay, well, I've got the flight charm. I can take out the Zeppelin. Take this, take this memento of mine. I'm gonna buy you guys time. Goodbye, and go after the Zeppelin.
If it's supposed to be that kind of thought processing, I think I know what type of character I want to play, per se. Because
it's not the whole I must sacrifice myself mentality. It's the I don't no one else here has the flight charm. Only I can take out that Zeppelin.
Right. No.
Because
In Celtic mythology, the best thing you could do is it's like the Viking and Norse, have a good death. But with the Celts, it wasn't like with the Vikings going to Valhalla. It was, don't worry, it might be a generation or two, but you will be back. And
Okay.
like, I can make that character.
Okay. All right. Baron, what do you got going?
Well, we have our discussion starting on dragons starting tomorrow on myself and Bruce's channel. So make sure you check us out. And there'll be some other things forthcoming.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will go my screen only for a moment. So, for those of you who have joined us this evening, I do thank you. Here at Gatekeepers, we are focused on games that are not specifically one type of game. We want to explore more games. And even if there's games that you've never heard of that you are interested in that we might know, suggest it in our Discord. And if you are interested in our Discord, we do have a link in the video description so you can join the discussion and pose questions to us. And we might even go check out one of these game engines that you suggest to us, and then we can report back, or even maybe have you on as a guest speaker to tell us about the game engine. If you haven't already done it, please consider subscribing to each of the channels. I will have those in the video description after the show ends. And if you really like this episode, consider not just subscribing, but liking the episode. It really helps the channel out. It'll also help them out if you like any of their content. So, without further ado, we are going to end the stream. And you guys have a great night. Thank you, chat, for being with us. Baron, how about you give us the outro?
Well, I'm going to steal this from a very good friend of mine who lives in New Zealand. This was his, and I'm taking it and using it. So time is a very finite resource. You have spent some of that resource with us here tonight or on the replay watching this content, and we definitely want to thank you for that. And we will see you next week.
Have a great night, everyone.
God bless.